Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are just after market close on Monday, October 25th. We're going to take a look at Lucid Group today. Now Lucid I haven't covered for a couple of weeks, but I took a new position in it today, a long position, and so I thought I would jump in and cover it as well. And I was thinking, I wouldn't mind getting more familiar with Lucid by way of tracking it more often. If you're familiar with my channel, you might know this, but if you're not, I cover SoFi almost every day. I cover Palantir every Monday, and then in between it's a hodgepodge. But I was thinking if this would be interesting for me to cover Lucid, once a week or a couple times a week, every week, leave me a comment below and let me know. I don't know if that's interesting to folks or if that would be, interesting to folks to immediately repeat myself, but I would potentially be game for it. So just let me know in the comments, and if we get a good response, then I'll see where I could put it on the calendar and just give it its own place. But this is from the chart that we had put out a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, however long ago it was. And as we see, a few really interesting things happen. Now, what I had said in that video at that time was my worry, and it started to do this a little bit, but the bulls won the battle here, basically. I had said my worry is that we're on this ascending triangle, right? We have this flat top here, resistance, and then we have this nice ascending movement, which at that point it had only confirmed it once, and I don't love that because confirming something once kind of means nothing. Because by the same token, and what I was saying in that video, this upper trend line you could draw it like this too, and that would have just confirmed it once at that point, right? At this point. But because it reconfirmed it here on Friday, that's great. And but back to what I was saying was, at that time I was saying my worry here is that it's going to come down through this area of pretty weak support and potentially fall through. But luckily, the bulls, the uptrend support won out on that, and it pushed it up nicely up and over this 2430, which to me, it has potentially quite a bit of run room. I don't necessarily see a ton of resistance points that would prevent it from getting into the 28s and sort of trying to make a run at 29, aka this 2882 resistance level that we see here. But that's been a very strong resistance level. We zoom this back out again. Now the thing about that though is the setup here is much more clear. If it stays in this area and pushes in this confined price space, then that gives it a ton of momentum to push out and make a run toward this 33 zone, which is what I would think would be next. The 30 level is such a strong psychological level, though it might bring something with it. There's just not enough back here in the price history to clearly draw it in. But in any case, what could certainly be happening with all of this previous topping out at this 2882 area is just that the selling pressure is exhausted, right? You've exhausted all of the folks who wanted to sell at that level because they did it here, they did it here, they did it here, and they did it here several times. And so now what's going to happen when you get to that level? Are people really going to want to be hitting the eject button again at 2882, or were the folks who were sort of that mindset, are they kind of weeded out at this point? They've made their transaction and they are just not in the game anymore, right? So there's not going to be a ton of exits at that point. Well, we'll have to see. But to me, the setup is looking really solid for the time being, and could have some tailwinds coming in as well. But I thought we would also check in on the indicators since we didn't last time. Now we get a fresh bullish crossover today. We'll have to see how well this takes shape, but it's a nice sharp crossover with that yellow MACD crossing above the blue signal line. So that's a good sign, and it's pretty close to the baseline. It's not extended up very high at all. So the fact that it's above the baseline, sometimes you can interpret that as there's not as much room to run. In this case, specifically because of this setup, but also because it's really close to the baseline, I think that it's, you could treat it as though it was basically at the baseline. The RSI stretching up nicely. So I always worry about, if you haven't heard me, droning on and on about RSIs before, I don't pay as much attention to the overbought and oversold, because I've seen plenty of stocks oversold that just continue to bleed and people just buy them because they seem oversold, and then they end up bag holding. Similarly, I've seen a lot of folks buy into stocks that are considered overbought, and you see them buy in high and then sell higher. And so I look mostly for RSI to confirm trend based on mid-range. So the 50 level of the RSI, does it get support over the 50, which is looks to me like what we saw today, and then it's able to make its run toward overbought, which is just going to be a reflection of the price action moving up? Or if it's coming up from the bottom, does it get stuck at the midline and reject off and then come back down? Here you see it had a very smooth transition through the 50 range. Back here, for example, you saw it get trapped here a little bit, right? Got trapped and then got pushed down. But that's where it was trying to sort of swing, and it got trapped right at about 52, and that pushed it off. So that's sort of what I'm talking about. Here, similarly, it's overbought, comes down to the mid-range, 50, and establishes off of there and makes another run to overbought. So that would have carried the price action as it corresponds from a high of 27.88 to a high of 29.81. So that RSI to me is looking good. It's looking like it wants to fly. That's also a nice sharp movement, as you would imagine after today. Now the MAs, there's a lot of support right here is the other really positive thing. So pretty hammerish looking candle. You have the 50 keeping watch underneath the upper support trend line. I'm hoping that we don't break that, because that then busts the whole play. And the 20 and the 50, the 20 is situated just under the 50 at the moment, and so that gives it the opportunity for a bullish crossover. We might see that tomorrow, but that also means the 20 and the 180 are just both sitting there, and independent of each other they would offer support, but together, and the fact that they're sitting right on this like 24.30, I don't know if that's the exact zone because the price is right there, that support zone, I mean, there's just so much support right here, right? So it would take something significant to push it back down and through. So it's looking really, really solid to me, hence I took a position today. All right, should we look at the 1 day and see how? I always like to look back at these and think, okay, how might you have played it today if you're looking at something like a swing trade or even just a day trade? And this could have been pretty tricky in the sense of, like, you know, with your VWAP here, it kind of chopped around and then it just took off. But like, you could have bought in here and still made really good returns. You could have bought in here and still made pretty good returns, especially if you're buying options or something. But it just kind of gets up into no man's land a little bit. Sometimes I like to throw in the Ichimoku clouds to help me out when I feel like I'm in no man's land a little bit. That was throwing some buy signals around here and back here, it looks like. But otherwise, yeah, just pretty textbook bounce off of the VWAP also, just almost to the penny, which would have given you another possible entry point, you know, sort of a dip buy entry points. As well. So I was going to look now. Let's look at the data. All right, so short data. So shorts closed out quite a decent amount today. You know, not nothing, down 6.61% short interest change. So some folks packing up, going home, brings the current short interest as a percentage of the free float down to under 10%. Even under 8%, 7.95. Utilization is still relatively high. Cost to borrow is negligible, and days to cover is also negligible. So it looks to me like there's just kind of shorts floating in and out, in and out. Certainly, the more that this overall chart puts pressure on them, they're going to just continue to whittle that number down, and then they'll probably come pile in. So to me, that would be the next thing I would look for, is for this number to dwindle down even further, maybe even dip below 5. But then at some point, the shorts will, you know, hypothesize that the price is extended so far to the upside that they'll want to jump in and pile on and try to drive it back down. That I could see happening either at this 28.82, because they obviously know that that's historical selling pressure at that level, or if it does fly through there this time, they may pile on right around that $30 level, again, just because it's psychological. Just crossing into the next sort of decade of prices can sort of throw things for a loop sometimes, can be really hard to crack that shell. All right, folks, I think that'll do it for this update video. I hope that you enjoyed playing Lucid today. If you were in, probably felt like a really good day and jump-started your week in the right direction. So I hope you're able to follow it up with a good, strong rest of the week, and I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.